Hello, my name is Stephen Vasquez, and I am the New York State Coordinator for Campaign for Liberty. On today's show, we interviewed Katherine Albrecht. Katherine is a best-selling author of Spy Chips: How Major Corporations and Government Plan to Track Your Every Move with RFID. Katherine has a doctorate from Harvard University, and she is the host of a daily syndicated show, Dr. Katherine Albrecht, which can be heard on GCN.
Well, the best way to understand RFID is to understand what the acronym stands for. The RF part stands for radio frequency. The ID part stands for identification, and that's because they're tiny microchips, little silicon wafers containing information that are hooked up to miniature antennas that use radio waves to transmit. So what that means is that if you have one of these tiny devices, the little microchip with its antenna combination, you can put those in literally anything. You can embed them in a plastic card like an ID card. You can put them in a passport. You can embed them into somebody's shoes. There literally is a company that is marketing RFID tags embedded in people's shoes that they would not know was there. You can sandwich them between the layers of cardboard. They can go into virtually anything. And once you've got the RFID tag inside of an item, it lies dormant until it's stimulated by radio energy from the environment. So, for example, if you walk through a doorway, if the doorway is equipped with an RFID portal or an RFID reader, it kind of bombards you head to toe with this energy, and if you're carrying something or wearing something that contains an RFID tag, that energy is picked up by the antenna, stimulates the chip, wakes it up, gives it just enough power to transmit its unique information. And in the case of most RFID tags, the information is a unique serial number, and the long-term plan for this is to create something called the Internet of Things, where literally every object on Earth, and when I say every object, they are envisioning every sewing needle, every jumbo jet, every pair of shoes, every Bible, literally every object on Earth containing one of these tags. The Internet of Things would be a way to track, monitor, and keep tabs on where everything is all the time. I think there's really three different areas of concern for people who are worried about the privacy impact of having someone scan them through these tags. One of them is the use of RFID tags in products, which we talk about extensively in our book Spy Chips. The idea there is to put them into, you can weave them into clothing labels, you can put them into the seams of fabric, you can put them into shoes. There is ultimately a plan to use them to replace the barcode. And that's how you wind up with literally every object containing one. Once that happens, you can not only be tracked through the things that you buy, you own, you wear, or you carry, but as you walk through the doorway, now an inventory of everything you're wearing and carrying can be made. And because RFID tags, RFID energy, radio frequency energy, travels through the things we normally rely on to protect our privacy, like plastic or fabric or leather, it means that someone would be able to inventory the contents of your backpack, the contents of a woman's purse, everything in your pockets, all the way down to the size and color of your underwear. So that's sort of the first risk, is tagging products. The second risk is tagging people. And that breaks down into two different ways that the RFID industry is looking to do that. One of them is through things that you would carry mandated by law, such as a driver's license, a passport. In some countries, they're actually mandating the use of RFID tagged identity documents that people have to carry, like China, where China was the biggest RFID market on the globe last year, ordering over 1 billion RFID chips to place in the pockets, wallets, backpacks, and purses of the Chinese citizens, so that their communist government can simply point a reader device at someone walking down the street and identify that individual. In China, it's actually quite chilling. When you look at what they're doing, they've actually linked up those RFID chips in the ID cards with information that ranges from someone's employment background, their educational history, their reproductive history, even their landlord's name and phone number. And China right now is experimenting with these surveillance cities. It's begun with the city of Shenzhen, China, where they've literally rigged the entire city with all sorts of surveillance devices, everything from video cameras, surveillance cameras, hidden cameras, all the way down to RFID readers positioned in strategic locations so they can track people. So that's sort of a direction that we're moving, is using this literally and very specifically to track people. And then your third way, or the third concern, also has to do with tracking people, and that's the RFID implant. where there's actually an implantable version, has the tiny microchip, has the antenna, in this case the antenna is sort of a coil wrapped around the microchip, encapsulated in a capsule of medical grade glass, and that is injectable and has been injected into about 2,500 people worldwide to date. That device goes into, typically they're putting it somewhere between the elbow and the shoulder, but the more obvious place would be the hand, because you would want to press it against a reader or transmit that data more directly and more easily. And those microchips are problematic for a number of reasons, not the least of which is that we've discovered that they cause cancer in between 1 and 10% of laboratory animals that they're injected into. Well, the Real ID program, I think for anyone who cares about liberty and is concerned about intrusive big brother government is really a nightmare. The idea is for every American citizen to carry a driver's license that would be controlled not by their individual state and their individual Department of Motor Vehicles, as is the case today, but would actually be controlled by the Department of Homeland Security. So what we're in essence talking about is a national ID card, very similar to what's being done in communist countries like China. The Department of Homeland Security taking control of driver's licenses means that we would have a federal database containing enormous amounts of information about individuals, and that information is not only subject to big brother abuse, certainly, for anyone I think who follows our issues I think would immediately be aware of that, but it's also subject to abuse by hackers and criminals, because when you have low-hanging fruit of a database of all of the information on American citizens in a single location, all it takes is for one determined hacker or one huge colossal screw-up on the part of somebody for all of that information to get out. And at that point, they don't just have information on the motorists in the state of Utah or the state of Alabama, but at that point they have information on the motorists for the entire nation. One of the big concerns now is you've got all of the border states being contacted by and sort of co-opted by the Department of Homeland Security and the State Department to begin offering RFID tagged driver's licenses. Now, when we first stumbled across RFID back in 2001 and 2002, when I was one of the only people sounding the alarm about this technology, we were told repeatedly by the industry that because this was tracking technology, plain and simple, that it would never be used to track people. Very specifically, that it was inappropriate to put it into identity documents, that it would never be used on people, because the technology was developed specifically to track and trace products and items in warehouses. This tag that they're putting into driver's licenses in the states of Washington and New York, and now shortly in the states of Michigan and Vermont, and also Arizona, all of which have agreed to participate, this tag can be read right through your pocket, right through your wallet or your backpack, from 20 to 30 feet away, silently, invisibly, without your knowledge. You would have no way of knowing when and if it was being scanned. And we know, based on information that we have found, that there is a definite interest in doing that. When IBM discussed tracking people in public locations, they talked about doing it for marketing purposes, first of all, so they could tell how long you linger in front of certain sections of the store. And also they talked about doing it to track suspicious persons and handing over the infrastructure to the government. And I don't know about you, Stephen, but it seems to me like ever since September 11th that the government's definition of suspicious person has expanded to the point where it now includes law-abiding American citizens, every single one of us.